Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Financial Soundness survey for Category 1 up to Category 4, FSPs that hold, control, or have access to client funds, and also for FSPs that do not hold client funds. My name is Zinhle Ngcobo. I am an analyst in the Financial Advisors Department, which is under the Conduct of Business Division within the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. So the purpose of the Financial Soundness survey is to establish whether financial services providers could meet the financial soundness requirements after the definitions and requirements were changed with the change to the determination of the fit and proper requirements for FSPs with Board Notice 194 of 2017. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Ms. Thandiwe Molefo, who will also introduce herself. So I'm just going to give you a run through the questionnaire. So we have questions up 1 up to 72. So depending on the selection, if you're an FSP that does not collect premiums, your questionnaire could end at question 51. And then for FSPs that collect premiums, the questionnaire might end at question 72. So it is very important that once you've started with the questionnaire, it's important that you finish the questionnaire, because we currently don't have the save and finish later function. And then we will also have a PDF document so that you can have a review of the questions before you start the survey. So our PDF document will have a total questions of 72. And then so that when you start your questionnaire, you have an idea of how to answer. And then after completing the survey, you do have an option to download your answers for record purposes. So you will complete the survey, submit, and then download your questions. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to my colleague, Ms. Thandiwe Molefo. Thank you very much.
Good day, everyone. My name is Thandiwe Molefo. I'm also an analyst from within the Financial Advisors and Intermediaries in the Conduct of Business. I will take you through the first run of our questions, of our questionnaire, and explain the more technical terminologies. However, for anything that seems foreign or anything that the FSP is not aware of or uncomfortable with, please look that up in your FASE Act or your Board Notice 194 of 2017, as amended by Board Notice 707 of 2020, as well as Google or the Companies Act as well for terminologies on the subordination loans and the rules around that as well. Thank you, Zinhle. May you start projecting the questionnaire, please?
Thank you, Thandi.
Thank you, colleagues. So for purposes of this questionnaire, we are going to try the various selections so you can see the different options that pop up. However, for safety purposes, we are going to just use the FSCA for the name of the FSP. And then for the FSP number, we will select 000 so that we are not selecting any one of your FSP numbers. You can go down. And for the FSP authorization, you can either be authorized for 1, 2, 2A, 3, or 4. For purposes of this illustration, we are just going to select category 1. It will still cover the FSPs that do collect premiums under category 2, 2A, and 3. Now, the number of your key individuals, for purposes of this illustration, we are going to select 1 to 5. And then for the number of employees here, you need to include your entire staff complement. It will be your employees, including non-financial sector related employees. So your staff, your admin staff, your IT staff, your HR, your facilities teams, that's everyone. So we will select 101 to 200. And for number of representatives, we are going to select 21 to 100. Does the FSP have juristic representatives? By juristic representatives, we are talking to the non-natural person representative. So anybody that is a legal person, such as a PTY or a CC, that will be your juristic representatives. Is the juristic representative in the process of is it declared insolvent or insolvent? For purposes of the illustration, we'll select yes. Is one or more juristic representatives declared provisionally solvent or no? We'll say no for this. Or question 10, we will select yes. Is question 11, is one or more juristic representatives in the process of being liquidated or provisionally liquidated? We will select no. Is one or more juristic representatives under business rescue? You will select what is applicable to you as the FSP. We will select no for this illustration. So these are requirements that are within our board notice 194, and we are just checking the applicability to the FSPs. Is one or more juristic representatives under business rescue proceedings? We will say no. Is it repeated?
No, it's a different question, Sandy.
Is it a different question?
Yes.
Okay, business rescue proceedings. Okay, no for this as well. All right. And I just saw a selection now under 13. Oh, okay.
Now,
how many juristic representatives does the FSP have? For purposes of this illustration, we'll select 1 to 5. And you need to say the legal nature of the FSP. You can select whether they are PTYs or closed corporations or any of the other selections that you see there. Does the FSP meet the financial soundness requirements as set out in Chapter 6 of the determination of fit and proper requirements? Yes or no? So if you do select no, there will be a different set of questions that pop up. If you select yes, there will be different questions that come up as well. So for purposes of this illustration, to just make sure that we show more questions, as much questions as we can go into, we will select no, that the FSP does not meet in this instance. And the further question now is that, was the FSP able to meet the financial requirements prior to the changes on the determination of fit and proper requirements that were made in 2017? And for this illustration, we will select yes. However, you must select what was applicable to you. You need to look at your financials to see if prior to 2017 you were able to meet the requirements, and if after the fact you were not, or if you were. And now these questions are general, whether you meet financial soundness or not. How does the FSP submit financial statements? You will select if it's online, whether via email, postal delivery, hand delivery, or courier. And you will select what is most applicable to you. So we will select the e-portal for this purpose. And the next question then says, are the financial statements always submitted within 4 months after the year end? So this means that if your year end is 28 February, your submission date would have been 30 June. So the question now says, have you submitted at any time between 28 February and 30 June? So before or on the date. And it will be yes. If you have submitted 10 days after 30 June, then your answer will be no. Then for the next question, does the FSP maintain full and proper monthly accounting records that are up to date? You will select yes or no. This is a requirement of Section 19 of the FASE Act. Are the monthly accounting records maintained internally or by an external service provider? So do you maintain these yourselves within your finance division, or is this compiled by your accounting officer? If this is compiled by your accounting officer, it will be external. If this is compiled by your finance department, it will be internal. We also had a question that related to the annual financial statements where FSPs were not sure what to select if their annual financial statements were compiled externally. This question is specific to monthly records. So for the monthly records, please only select the selection that applies to your monthly records. At this point, do not worry about your annual financial statements and how these are compiled. And the next question is on the assets, whether they exceed the liabilities at all times. So this means month to month, not just at year end. Do you meet financial soundness at all times? Or do you as an FSP experience dips where you do not meet financial soundness during the year and then you recover and at some point and by the year end you have met? So if you have not met at all times, you will say no. So for this purpose, we will say no. Does the FSP hold subordinated loans on the balance sheet? For this purpose, we will say yes, because we want to explore the further questions that appear when you do hold subordinated loans. Now, for purposes of FSPs that may not be aware of what a subordinated loan is, if you do not understand what it is, chances are you do not have it, because for you to have it, you must have an agreement, you must have a director's resolution that speaks to the subordinated loan or a loan agreement with the person who has granted the FSP a loan. Examples of subordinated loans would be members, directors' loans, or loans from associated companies, or an external party that has agreed to subordinate their loan in favor of other liabilities. Usually the characteristics of a subordinated loan is that there is no fixed payment term. It may be a loan extended to the entity up until such a time that the entity is able to pay off all its external liabilities, and only then will the obligations on the subordinated loan apply. And that the other characteristics is that the loan usually doesn't have interest, or it has very low interest terms or percentages. So when we now say yes, there's an additional question that goes to the percentage of the subordinated loan of the liability. So for purposes of this illustration, we will select 26 to 50. So that means that almost between a quarter to half of our liabilities is subordinated, which means that the FSP may have only half of its, only half of, may have an obligation on only half of its liabilities. Is the subordinated loan classified as current liability? If it's a current liability, it means it is payable in the next 12 months. You will select yes if this is applicable. And then is the subordinated loan classified as a non-current liability? We will also select yes for this purpose. So a subordinated loan can be both classified as a current and non-current liability in instances where a portion of the subordinated loan is payable. For example, you could have a subordinated loan of 100,000 and perhaps only 50,000 or only 50,000 is payable in this financial period, or only 10,000 is payable in this financial period. In that instance, you will classify 50,000 as a current liability and 50,000 as a non-current liability. Has any amounts of the subordinated loans been repaid during the duration of the subordinated loan? Here you can select more than one selection, because you could have a situation where you're paying off the subordinated loan on an annual basis, or you may have not repaid this subordinated loan because you are still in a position where you are growing your entity because you have just started up. So you can select what applies to the FSP. The next question asks if the subordinated loans have been written off or impaired. You will select what is applicable to the FSP. For this purpose, we will select no. Does the FSP have goodwill on the balance sheet? So if you say no, we will not ask any further questions on the goodwill, but for purposes of illustrating for those who do have goodwill, we will select yes. Now, on the goodwill, we want to see the percentage value of the goodwill compared to your total assets. So you will select there under the goodwill on what your portion of the goodwill is. So we will select 11 to 25 for this purpose. And now the higher your goodwill, it may be an indicator that the higher your goodwill, it may be a good indicator that the FSP may not have enough tangible assets to meet its liabilities. So if there's a huge reliance on the goodwill, it may indicate that the FSP may need to relook at its asset base and how to best increase it. Would the FSP be able to meet the financial soundness requirements if the subordinated loans are excluded from the calculation of the liabilities? Here you will show if it is yes or no. Does the FSP know that an FSP can apply for an exemption from financial soundness requirements if it does not meet financial soundness? You will then select yes or no. We will select yes for this purpose. Does the FSP know how to apply for an exemption from a financial soundness requirement? We will still select yes. Has the FSP applied to the FSPCA for an exemption from the financial soundness requirements of Board Notice 194 of 2017? You can select yes or no, but for purposes of further illustration, we are going to select yes so that you can see what further questions come up. Then if you have applied for an exemption before, you need to say which years that you applied for the exemption and what years applied in that exemption notice that you may have received. So you may have received an exemption for 2 years. You need to select the relevant ones. All right, and here I will hand over back to my colleague who will take us through the rest of the questionnaire. We are still on FSPs that do not collect premiums, and we will continue, my colleague will continue with the rest of the questionnaire and then take you through to the questionnaire up until the FSPs that do collect, hold, or control assets.
Thank you very much, Thandiwe. I will now take over from question 36. Has the FSP had regulatory action taken against the FSP as a result of non-compliance with the financial soundness requirements of Board Notice 194 of 2017? As we all know, Board Notice 194 states that assets must exceed liabilities at all times. So if regulatory action has been taken against the FSP, you will choose the answer that is best selected for the FSP. So for this one, we will say no. And then question 37, has the FSP had any regulatory action taken against the FSP for not submitting the annual financial statements? As we all know that FSPs are required to submit annual financial statements each and every year. So if you don't submit, the regulator has powers to take regulatory action against the FSP. So you will select what is best applicable to the FSP. So for the purpose of this session, we will choose no. And then, has the FSP applied for extension to submit the financial statements later than 4 months, which is the required submission date after the financial year end? So FSPs do have an option to apply for an extension if maybe the FSP foresees that it will not meet the 4-month deadline. So there is an amount that is payable, which is 605 Rand, and then you give us your reasons for applying for the extension. So for the purpose of this session, we will choose yes. And then there are more questions that are following. So question 39 says, for which financial year or years did the FSP apply for an extension? You can select more than one if you have applied for an extension for maybe 2018 to 2019, 2019 to 2020. And then question 40. Did the FSP apply for an extension at least 15 days before the submission date of the financial statements? So if your financial year end is the 28th of February, then your submission date is the 30th, is no later than the 30th of September. So if you're going to apply for an extension, it should be 15 days prior to the deadline, of which is the 30th of June. So you will select the option that is best for the FSP. So for this purpose, we're going to say yes. Is the FSP declared insolvent or provisionally insolvent? So FSPs will select what is the current state of the FSP. For this session, we will choose yes. And then is the FSP in the process of being declared insolvent or provisionally insolvent? So since question 41, we had already said yes. For this one, we'll say no. But then it is best to answer what is the state of your FSP. And then the next question is the FSP placed under liquidation or provisional liquidation? So we have a yes or no. For this purpose, we're going to say no. And then question 44, is the FSP in the process of being liquidated or provisional liquidated? For this purpose, we're also going to select no. Question 45, is the FSP under business rescue? So as we all know, if the FSP is under business rescue, the authority is in a position of taking away the license. So again, you will choose what is the current state of the FSP. For this purpose, we're going to select no. And then question 46, is the FSP under business rescue proceedings? Again, we'll select no. The FSP's question 47, the FSP's income was adversely affected by the, you can choose what is the state of the FSP. If you are affected by the economic impact of COVID-19 restrictions, you will select. So on question 47, you have an option of selecting more than one option. So if it was load shedding, you also select. If it was the floods that we all witnessed in KZN, you will select the floods. If it was riots. And again, if none of these affected your FSP, you have an option of selecting none of the above or not applicable. But then for the purpose of this session, we will choose economic impacts of the COVID-19 restrictions, load shedding, and the floods. But then you will choose what is best for the FSP. Question 48. Did the FSP reduce its staff complement as a result of the impact of any of the factors in the question above? So if the FSP was affected by the floods or the COVID-19 restrictions, and then as a result, you had to reduce your staff complement, you will choose yes or no or none, not applicable, depending on the state of the FSP. So for this purpose, we are going to say yes. And then question 49, has the FSP recovered its pre-COVID-19 profits since the restrictions were relaxed? So here you will choose if you have recovered your profits. If no, then you also select no, and we also have an option of selecting not applicable. So for this option, we are for the purpose of continuing, we are going to select yes. And then question 50, does the FSP collect premiums or hold client funds? For the purpose of continuing with this questionnaire and to show everyone where it ends, we will select yes. Does the FSP collect short-term insurance premiums? Here we will also say yes. Does the FSP collect long-term insurance premiums? We will also say yes. Does the FSP hold other premiums on behalf of clients? We'll also say yes. Thandiwe, can you just quickly jump in here? When we talk about an FSP that is holding money other than premiums, can you just give us more clarity on this question?
Okay, so in some instances, you can have the FSPs that actually have control over their client funds. So for asset manager type of companies where they get to transact on behalf of their clients. So they are holding the client accounts, but the accounts are in the name of the client. So that can be another scenario where you are seen as collecting, but you're not necessarily collecting premiums in a separate account.
Thank you very much, Thandi. I just had to catch my breath there. That's why I brought you in. Thank you very much. Question 54, does the FSP receive cash? So this question speaks mostly to funeral parlors, because you find that funeral parlors also do collect cash from their clients, and then they write a receipt. So if you do collect cash, you will select yes. If not, you will select no. So for this purpose, we're going to say yes. And then question 55, Is the FSP registered as a TPPP provider with the Payment Association of South Africa? TPPP is the third-party payment provider with the Payment Association. So you will select yes or no. If you are registered, you'll select yes. If not, then you'll select no. For this purpose, we'll say yes, we are registered. And then question 56, does the FSP have a separate bank account in place for its client funds, money, or premiums? So if the FSP has a separate bank account, then you will select yes. If not, no. 57, has the FSP submitted details of the separate bank account to the authority? If you have submitted details of the separate bank account, you will say yes. If not, then you'll select no. So here we'll say yes. Question 58, does the current assets of the FSP exceed current liabilities? So you will also check on your balance sheet if your current assets exceed current liabilities. So we will select yes. And then question 59, would the FSP be able to meet financial soundness requirements if goodwill was excluded from the calculation? So if you have goodwill in your calculation, so as Thandi has alluded earlier on, that if your goodwill is, the percentage is higher, then there might be possibilities that you might not be able to meet financial soundness when it comes to your tangible assets. So here you will choose the best, you will choose what is best for the FSP. So here we will say yes. Question 60, would the FSP be able to meet financial soundness requirements only if the FSP could include both the goodwill amount in the FSP's business asset calculation and exclude subordinated loans from the FSP's business liabilities calculation? So here we will say yes. And then question 61, does the FSP have remuneration that is linked to a percentage of the FSP's revenue, a percentage of the revenue generated by an employee, representative, or contractor of the FSP, and that in the absence of such revenue, the FSP has no obligation to pay the remuneration? Or it's none of the above. So if you select the percentage of the FSP, we still get more questions. And then if you select a percentage of the revenue, here, Thandiwe, I stand to be corrected. We are talking about commission, right?
Yes, so we are talking about the non-obligatory expenses. So this is part of the calculation that you see in the liquidity calculation, where we look at the things that are obligations and the things that can be adjusted.
Okay, so here for 61, can we go with the first or second option?
Both options will
Okay.
give you, will give you further
All right.
questions. It's only if someone selects none of the above that there
We're
will be
able.
no follow-ups.
Okay, thank you very much. And then question 62, is the remuneration audited by the auditors? We'll select yes. Does the FSP still include trade receivables as liquid assets definition? Here we'll also say yes. Does the FSP know that liquid assets are defined in Board Notice 194 of 2017? As Thandi has mentioned earlier on, if there are any terminology that you are not familiar with, or if you still need a refresher, you can go on to the Phase Act, and you can also go on the Board Notice 194, and then you will see the definitions there. And then question 65, has the FSP met liquidity requirements in 2020? You will select here. So for this, for illustration purposes, we're going to say yes. Question 66 is the same as 65. Has the FSP met the liquidity requirement in 2021? We'll also say yes. The 67 is also the same. So 66, 65, 66, and 67 are just, it's the same questions, but then we're just asking for different years. So for 2022, we'll also say yes. So question 68, has the assets of the FSP or its juristic representative exceeded the liabilities by less than 10%? So you will choose what is best selected for the FSP. For this, for illustration purposes, we're going to select yes. question 69, has the current assets of the FSP or its juristic representative exceeded current liabilities by less than 10%? So for continuity, we're going to select yes. And then the question is, the last question is, has the authority been notified? Then you will select if you have notified or not. But then we can just quickly go back to question 60. If the current assets of the FSP, if the assets of the FSP or its juristic representative exceed the current liabilities by 10%, and if your answer is no, then there is no follow-up question, as you can see. And then if it is yes, then our last question is, have you notified the authority? So you will choose yes or no. So for this purpose, we will select yes, and then you will submit your questionnaire. And as I've mentioned in the introduction, that you can also download your responses, and then you can keep them for record purposes for the FSP. So I will just also repeat that the questionnaire will be available from the 1st of October for 6 weeks. So it will be available from the 1st of October up to the 15th of November 2020. So this session is just to take you through the questionnaire and what to expect. Thank you so much.
2022 there.
Sorry?
2022.
What did I say?
The 1st of October, 1st of October to 15 November 2020. So it is 2022.
Apologies. Okay. Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you very much. Sandy, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Nothing else that I'd like to say. I think for the FSPs, please try respond to the questionnaire as honestly as possible. This is obviously an opportunity for us to also see how the legislation affects FSPs, and the most honest answers will help us in understanding what the impact is on the FSPs and how we may need to best accommodate FSPs. And for any questions that you may have, please look on your profile on the e-portal and see who your linked analyst may be. If you need assistance on anything related to the survey, we will be available to assist. Thank you.
And also, Tandi, to add on, when you answer your questions, honestly, it's not that we will handpick any FSP that has selected yes or no, and then we will start taking regulatory action. So here we are just trying to gather information so that we can best assist and accommodate each and every FSP. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this session. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.